Welcome, everyone, to our Sunday service, and our second week of Living with Intention. Today is the Spacious Pause. And I also want to express that I am very, very happy today that we had the option of having this on Zoom, because if we had no Zoom capability and we're still meeting in person, we would most likely not be meeting on this icy morning. So I'm so glad to be here with all of you. Our Chalice Lighting words will be read by Ann Morrissey. Is Ann here?
And you're on mute. Ann, please unmute.
Ann, can you unmute?
I'm unmuted, thank you.
There, thank you.
A little technical difficulty in that you won't see me when I read the Chalice Lighting, but I hope to be back later. But I will read it now. Our Chalice Lighting words this morning are from Lynda Barnes. If you have a chalice at home and you'd like to light it along with us this morning, please do. I'm lighting a candle. Suspended Between by Lynda Barnes. Suspended between all that was and all that might be, we struggle to find this very moment, to live this very moment. Let us sit together for a moment and savor this moment. Let us relish this time between where past meets future, and let us harbor a faith that reminds us that right now, right here is enough.
And our call to worship is from Elena Westbrook. In a world ravaged by violence, by hatred, by conflicts that seem eternal and insoluble, sometimes the only thing we can do is be still for a moment to remind ourselves what is real. The sun that rose this morning, the dirt under our feet, the air whispering in and out of our lungs. This hour, try just to be present in each moment as it unfolds. Your simple attention is what makes these moments holy. Let us enter sacred space together. You're invited to sing with us our opening song, number 352, Find a Stillness. Pardon me, Pam, do we have words for this? I can't hear you.
No, I only have words for when I am frightened.
I beg your pardon. You're right, Olga.
Yeah.
We're doing When I Am Frightened. And have you got the number on that, Pam? Somehow I got this wrong in here.
What is the number?
I don't have the number.
I'll find it.
I thought we were doing Find a Stillness and just don't have words for it.
You know what?
Well, nobody's perfect. Nobody is perfect, so we'll find whatever you need to find, and we'll do it. I'm not worried about it. What's the number when I'm frightened?
You know what? You're seeing the results of me not being completely all here this week.
That's okay. That's not a problem.
Let's go on to the story.
I found 1012.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Olga. Thank you.
Okay, let's see how I'm gonna 1012.
This will work.
10. Oh my gosh, 12. Okay. All right.
All right. Can we get the word? Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, and I may learn to care as you do, then I may learn to care. When I am angry, will you still embrace me? When I am thoughtless, will you understand? Will you believe in me? Stand by me willingly. Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me acceptance,
Thank you, Olga and Pam, and thank you, Kathleen, for putting the other words in case we needed them. Our story this morning is called The Wise Teacher's Test, and it's adapted from a Jakarta Buddhist tale. Once upon a time, on the outskirts of a big city in Japan, there stood an old temple. From a young age, boys who wanted to study Buddhism would come to live in the temple and learn from the master teacher, who was a Buddhist monk. One day, the monk who ran the temple decided to teach his young students a lesson. He gathered them around and said, "My dear students, as you can see, I'm growing old and slow. I can no longer provide for the needs of the temple as I once did. I know I have not yet taught you to work for money, and so I can only think of one thing that can keep our school from closing." The students looked with their eyes wide. The monk continued, "Our nearby city is full of wealthy people with more money in their purses than they could ever need. I want you to go into the city and follow those rich people as they walk through the crowded streets, or when they walk down the deserted alleyways. When no one's looking, and only when no one's looking, you must steal their purses from them. That way, we'll have enough money to keep our school alive." "But master," the boys chorused in disbelief, "you have taught us that it's wrong to take anything that doesn't belong to us." "Oh, yes, I have," said the monk. "It would be wrong to steal if it weren't absolutely necessary. And remember, you must not be seen. If anyone can see you, you must not steal. Do you understand?" The boys looked nervously at each other. Had their beloved teacher gone mad? His eyes shone with intensity such as they had never seen before. "Yes, master," they said quietly. "Good," he said. "Now go, and remember, you must not be seen." So the boys got up and quietly began to file out of the temple building. The old monk rose slowly to watch them go. And when he turned back inside, he saw that one student was still standing quietly in the corner of the room. "Why did you not go with the others?" he asked the boy. "Do you not want to help save our temple?" "Oh, I do, master," said the boy quietly. "But you said that we had to steal without being seen. I know there's no place on earth that I would not be seen, for I would always see myself." "Excellent," exclaimed the teacher. "That is just the lesson I hoped my students would learn, but you were the only one to see it. Run and tell your friends to return to the temple before they get us into trouble." The boy ran and got his friends, who were nervously gathered just outside of sight of the temple, trying to decide what to do. When they returned, the master told them the words the boy had spoken, and they all understood the lesson. I invite you now into a spirit of prayer and meditation. Maybe settle a little more deeply into your body. Rest your feet on the ground. Feel the breath in your chest. Close your eyes if you'd like. In the Silence by Sarah Eileen Lawal. Spirit of life and love, in the silence, in the stillness, we hear the call of our own heart, its tender dreams, its sorrows and fears and triumphs. In the silence, in the stillness, we hear whispers of days gone by, of dreams still becoming, the promise of the future we celebrate together, our individual journeys and dreams, and our collective ones, knowing the journey is so much richer with others who share it. In the name of all that is holy, we pray, Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.
I'm reading Even This Is Enough by Lynda Sutherland. I could have written it myself. So much undone, so much to do, so much to heal in us and the world, so much to acquire: a meal, a healthy body, a fit one, a lover, a job, a better job, proof that we are enough just around the corner from now, and up against in the reality of all that falls short and the limits of today. We honor the limits. If your body won't do what it used to do, for now, let it be enough. If your mind won't stop racing, or you can't think of the word, let it be enough. If you are here utterly alone and in despair, be all that with us. If today you cannot sing because your throat hurts, or you just don't have the heart for music, be silent. When the offering plate goes around, if you don't have money to give or the heart to give, let it pass. The world won't stop spinning on her axis if you don't rise to all occasions today. Love won't cease to flow in your direction. Your heart won't stop beating, and all hope won't be lost. You are a part of the plan for this world's salvation. Of that, I have no doubt. The world needs its oceans of people striving to be good, to carry us to the shores of hope and wash fear from the beachheads and cleanse all wounds so they can heal. But oceans are big, and I'm sure there are parts that just don't feel up to the task of the whole some days. Rest if you must then, like the swimmer lying on her back who floats, or the hawk carried outside on cushions of air. Rest in pews made to hold weary lives, in space carved out for the doing of nothing much but being. Perhaps then you will feel in your bones, in your weary heart, the aching, healing sense that this is enough. Even this, that we are enough. You are enough. Enough. For these and all the meditations our hearts unspoken in this hour, I say, Amen.
Voice still and small, deep inside all, I hear you call, singing. In storm and rain, sorrow and pain, still will remain singing. Calming my fears, quenching my tears, through all the years, singing.
Have you ever had this happen to you? You're sitting at the table eating dinner and realize the butter's not on the table and you want some on your mashed sweet potatoes. So you get up and you go into the kitchen to get the butter from the fridge. And about 3 strides into the kitchen, you realize you have no idea what you came for. You might even need to go back to your seat where instantly you remember butter. So you head back into the kitchen. And if you're like me, you might have to say butter, 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 butter all the way into the kitchen in order to keep it in your head while you get in there. Which works fine as long as I remember to keep saying it. I've learned since I was a kid that I forget things easily, and I definitely forget things when I go through a doorway. And apparently that's quite common. Psychologists believe that walking through a door and entering another room creates a mental blockage in the brain, meaning that walking through open doors or thresholds resets the memory in order to make room for a new episode to emerge. In other words, our brain makes space for the new conditions it expects to encounter in a new place. This is generally referred to as the doorway effect. The doorway effect came into prominence after a 2011 study by researchers at the University of Notre Dame. And since that time, many studies have investigated how our memories might be affected by passing through doorways. Astoundingly, these studies show that doorways actually can cause forgetting, but not under all conditions and not equally with the different people. But it does happen that when we move from one room to another, the doorway represents the boundary between one context, such as the dining room, and another, such as the kitchen. Our brains use boundaries to help segment our experience into separate events so that we can more easily remember them later. These event boundaries also help define what might be important in one situation from what might be important in another. Hence, when a new event begins, we essentially flush out the information from the previous event because it might not be relevant anymore. That's just how our brains work. Our desire for butter in my illustration is connected with what we were doing in the dining room, eating dinner. And that connection is disrupted once we arrive in the kitchen. We're not in there to eat dinner. Studies have also found that there is strong evidence the more information our brain is dealing with at one time, the more pronounced that effect becomes. We can only hold a certain amount of information in our mind at a time. And when we're distracted by thoughts about other things, our working memory can easily become overloaded, making it more susceptible to the interference caused by the doorway. And it's not only physical doorways. Our brain engages in event segmentation in all facets of life, whether it's in physical space or in a more abstract sense. Research suggests that an abrupt change of scene primes our minds to receive something new. Our brains form experience containers in which certain decisions and habits help us function. In other words, we're concentrating on the needs of our new environment. In most cases, our tendency to segment our lives into distinct events is actually advantageous. Our information capacity is limited, so we can't remember too much information in one go. So it's more efficient for us to only retrieve information about the current situation rather than remembering all the information from everything we've recently experienced. In other words, in order for our brains to be ready to process new experiences. We just have to loosen our grip a little on what has happened before. Now, the current research between 2019 and 2021 suggests that it's not so much the doorways themselves that cause a memory wipe, but it is more that moving from one location to a significantly different one, that abrupt change of scene, that's what primed our minds to receive something new. If the brain thinks it's in a different context, then the new memories that we expect to form belong in a different network of information. We don't want to put all of our how to go out during COVID information into the how to go out to take my trash out, right? Dr. Oliver Bauman, assistant professor at Bond University, points out that this capacity to compartmentalize and manage memory can be really useful in so many situations, and they help us make sense of our world, even if the cost is sometimes finding ourselves in a room with no idea of why. There are times, though, when this feature of our brains can be a little more than annoying. For instance, when I went in for my cataract surgery last Tuesday, I checked into a facility where all they do is eye surgery. And I was really happy to know that there I was in the hands of doctors and nurses and aides who exclusively take care of eyes. They know what to watch for. They know how to help anxious patients who are awake, though sedated, during the procedure. And they're experienced in the types of things that might come up during eye surgery. And so I felt I was in good hands. After I was sedated and hooked up to all the right monitors, but before they draped me for the procedure, my medical team paused for a few moments. They asked my name and date of birth again. They confirmed they were to operate on my right eye and that eye was marked with permanent marker. And I don't remember what else they did during that pause. I was sedated, but I do remember the doctor asking, "Are we all set?" And the others in the room saying, "All set." And they began the procedure. Now, I might not have even noticed all of this, except that last week, we were talking in our worship brainstorm meeting about our theme for January, Living with Intention, and Lynda Clark mentioned that there is a pause before the surgery that professionals usually, I guess, take before they begin. Lynda, would you mind saying a few words from your perspective as a nurse about this practice?
It was developed out of necessity, like most things. Necessity is the mother of invention. So when you're in a situation for surgery, you're being taken care of by human beings. And we all know that human beings make mistakes. So in healthcare, there's like 3 different ways that I would have to think about, act, and record for every action, because I have the potential to make a mistake. So anyway, that timeout is to help prevent mistakes. And it was learned, of course, because problems had happened. So now there's always a timeout before surgery. And the patient is part of that conversation before they're sedated.
Thank you. You know, I think that this type of pause can be helpful in many areas of our lives. I actually kind of stumbled on this principle myself during the pandemic. Like many of you, I have found myself to be more forgetful. And so often I'm feeling exactly like that kid standing in the kitchen with no idea of what I'm supposed to be doing here. Every few weeks, it seems we're learning so many new things that affect us in almost every aspect of our lives, where we go, who we see, who we hug or shake hands with or stand 6 feet away from, different rules for indoor and outdoor spaces, new information coming all the time. And as we just learned in our joys and sorrows, our personal situations are changing rapidly also, either each of us ourselves or people we know. Now, it takes our brains a couple of minutes to shift gears when we go from one thing to another. Each time we have new guidelines to consider, each time a new variant comes out, each time we learn something important that they have just discovered about how our safety protocols need to be adjusted, each time our churches or schools transition to in-person or back online, the change tends to be experienced as a new space, a new reality, a different room, if you will, in which we have really important new things to absorb and understand and adjust to. It's no wonder we feel so exhausted. Sometimes a story works better than an explanation to capture the impact of an experience on us. And for me, there's a story that captures how I feel lately in these circumstances. I have no idea where I heard this story, and I don't know if it's true factually, but it resonates with me. And so here's the story as I remember it. Once there was an expedition into a wilderness area, and they hired locals who knew the terrain very well to guide them. They'd planned out how many miles they could expect to cover in a day, but they were having trouble meeting their schedule because the guides had a habit of sometimes just sitting down and resting, visiting, playing games, anything but walking right then. After a while, the guides would agree that they could resume the journey and they would go on with full vigor. Finally, the leader of the expedition asked one of the guides why they insisted on stopping when they obviously had the energy to keep going. "Oh," said the man, "we have to stop sometimes to let our spirits catch up with our bodies." That phrase has stuck with me. More and more often during the pandemic, I have felt like I needed to pause, and it has almost been a physical sensation of my spirit catching up to my body. At least that's a handy way for my brain to understand it. And so I've started pausing before I get up out of my chair to touch base with what it is I want to do next and to remember why I want to do it. I find it helps me remember things more easily and helps minimize the threshold effect. I'm learning to pause when I feel big emotions. I identify the emotion and give myself time to process it before moving on. You know, the old idea of the count to 10 before you react. It turns out our emotions only last about 20 seconds unless we begin to feed them with our thoughts. And so once the big emotional surge passes, we gain more mental space to deal with whatever it is that's going on. In essence, we're waiting for the emotion to pass, for our usual spirit of fairness or balance or safety or whatever to return before we proceed to deal with the situation that we are reacting to. Creating space between the event and our actions so that we can get clear about our thoughts, emotions, and needs. We can check in with ourselves and decide what we want to be sure to bring with us into the new space we are entering. We can solidly ground ourselves in reality, touch base with our values, and prepare our brains to function more effectively. And so perhaps we can more fully embrace the idea of intentionally slowing down and allowing ourselves to pause at the many, sometimes thresholds in our lives. Those transition points when conditions change. May we all find enough spacious pauses in our lives that we can allow our spirits to catch back up with us. And may it be so. And now it's time to collect our offering. Our January offerings go to Abby's house. Please give generously as you are able to support our UU ministry and our work in the world. Donation information's in the chat as we enjoy this offertory from Olga. Thank you, Olga. So beautiful. I encourage everyone to stay long enough for the announcements today. We have some important information about upcoming services. So I'm going to end our service today with an ancient Tibetan Buddhist prayer. May you be at peace. May your heart remain open. May you awaken to the light of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all beings. May it be so, and go in peace.